Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today we have representation from 3 continents that are registered. Thank you for joining and welcome to Teleperformance TP Talks. I am Tom Gebhardt. I'll be your moderator today. I've been with Teleperformance for 18 years and I am Senior Vice President with Business Development. While CX landscape has already shifted dramatically, many companies globally are re-strategizing their CX play. And customer experience leaders need to adjust the design and implementation of customer journeys. To help answer some pressing questions, I'm joined today by Realigning, Director of Customer Support with Seagate Technology. We'll kick off today with a quick introduction video to TP Talks webinar series and your host, Teleperformance. So let's go ahead and start with our video. So before we continue, let's cover a few housekeeping items. Webinars designed to be interactive. You'll see multiple icons at the bottom of your console. If you have any questions, and we'd love for you to interact with us, please submit them to our Q&A window. Do this anytime during the conversation. We'll address them during our design Q&A time later in our session. You can also access the Learn More widget for more resources. On concluding our conversation here, you are invited to connect with Alan and myself in the breakout room. We'll be open for about 15 minutes following our session today. And should you have any technical issues, please click on the help link. It's the box that looks like a question mark. So a little background on Alan Ng. Alan's the Director of Customer Support at Seagate. He's been with Seagate for over 12 years and in the computer storage industry for 20. Alan has a strong technology support background, having managed and been an engineer for companies including both Toshiba and Dell. Alan's current role at Seagate includes leading their global customer support center operations for consumer product support, enterprise system support, and their Americas technical account management for strategic channel partners. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's topic, realigning effective CX strategies by balancing high tech and human touch. You may have seen in our invitation mention of a McKinsey publication called The Future of CX. In this report, they surveyed 260 leaders and found only 13% of CX leaders were confident that their organization could take action on CX issues in near real time. With the world slowly opening, one of the biggest questions CX leaders have is how to effectively align their CX strategies with this evolving environment and how they can maximize efficiencies. Today, Alan will share some of his insights on areas that can help you be more prepared to align and achieve a balanced global CX landscape, maximize efficiencies in work-at-home deployments, channel optimization and shoring strategies along with multilingual hubs, and lastly, best practices on balancing high tech with human touch. As a reminder, please submit any questions for the Q&A panel. Alan, you run a global support operation with 17 different languages. There must be a lot that you need to consider achieving the right balance of customer support. Meeting budgets, ensuring business continuity. Can you please share some of the ideas you look at and share with our audience things that they should be considering as they look to optimize their CX landscape?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Tom, for the introduction. It's my pleasure to be part of this round TP Talk. when we look at the ever-changing CS landscape, and especially with the work-at-home movement, a few things that we continue to look at is, the site strategy, right? When we look at the site strategy that involves servicing customers in many countries, we need to consider many factors. Factors such as language, such as site country stability. Those are the pieces of factors that we need to assess when we select our site.
Alan, you support both enterprise and consumers along with channel partners. Are there any areas that you find synergy between those three that you are able to optimize and become more efficient?
Not today, Tom. Our enterprise and consumer supports are operated separately as the complexity of the cases and issues and the reason customers contact us are very different. Think of it this way. Enterprise is more of a B2B support model and consumer is B2C, obviously. The channels which our customers prefer to use and also the most effective channel for us to serve them are also different between the two.
So I imagine supporting consumers and enterprises, maybe it's a little bit different skill set and also maybe a little bit different hours of operations that are being required to support your clients. Is that true?
Correct. Yeah, our enterprise support is 24/7. Consumer is mainly business hours.
Yeah, what about resource availability? And as you look at different markets with the global infrastructure, you have some markets that, as you take a look at the U.S. here and the cost of, you certainly have resource issues and certainly cost issues as well to compound that. So you look at other markets, and how do you look at resource availability and really maximize your ability to optimize operations?
Yeah, with the resource availability, with the current work-at-home trend, sourcing for the talent pool or the talent supply certainly has improved compared to say before. When we look at let's focus on language as one of the key factors when we look at site strategy as an example. Obviously, you want to select the sites that offer the language that meets your customers' needs, right? But with the current work-at-home trend, sourcing of the languages has become easier. In my opinion, a multilingual hub brings a lot of advantages, helps streamline your operations and reduces the burden to manage too many sites. Also, that encourages or ensures standardized practices and process across, within the same site, right? If I were to look at if you have an operation that has, let's say, 100 seats, I don't think it's going to be a very efficient model where you have a site that only has 5 to 10 customer advocates. It's not the most cost-optimized solution, in my opinion. Plus, smaller sites tend to be overlooked when your team is focusing on high volumes and larger sites, right? So when we look at strategy, resources, we look at not just the resources at the BPOs, but also how our team scale accordingly to manage the different sites.
I imagine governance comes into play too, and I think pre-pandemic, a lot of our customers enjoy spending time at our sites, and we certainly enjoy having them there, and it's certainly a way to embrace culture and help with learning product and system support that we need to be educated on, our agency to be educated on. How do you look at that in your strategy? I think pre-pandemic, lots of travel, post-pandemic, not as much travel, but we're starting to loosen that up. So when you look at how you govern a relationship, how does that come into play in your site selection and management of the relationship?
Yeah, in an ideal world, I'd like to have an operation where we manage the BPOs and let the BPOs manage the operations, and that's not usually the case. When we tend to find ourselves spending more time on a few sites, more than the others, right? I think it has a lot to do with the site leadership's capability and how good the management training or even QA for that site. Most of our operations today are considered offshore, and we are prepared to send the team members to all the sites. If there's no travel restrictions, a site visit maybe twice a year to maybe even every quarter especially when it comes to training and QA. I think those are necessary. When you mentioned earlier that I used to work at Dell, and when I was at Dell, I used to manage suppliers, and I used to visit them every quarter, and also to their factories in the Far East at least twice a year. The ability for us as the partner to see the process in actions, discuss with the management team what's working, what's not working, and what areas need to be improved, bring tremendous benefit. Plus, not to mention that this will further strengthen the relationship between the two teams.
As you look at offshore, nearshore options, certainly more time to travel to offshore locations, depending on how many people you have coming, and spending time at the site, that certainly comes as a cost factor as well to be considered, right?
Correct. Yep. All that is part of our operating budget.
So the next topic, and we'll circle back with some questions on this, as mentioned, more towards the end of the session. Our next topic is maximizing efficiencies in work-at-home deployments, also looking at channels, shoring strategies, and dovetailing the previous conversation with multilingual hubs. Since the pandemic, work-at-home has much more prominent role in day-to-day operations with many of the clients that I interact with. Alan, how has this changed your landscape, and what are some of the areas that those of us joining us today should be considering?
Yeah, the work at home kind of trend hasn't really changed our site strategy in terms of nearshore or offshore kind of strategy, but it has only increased the talent supply, and what has brought to our attention that the some BPOs or some sites are more prepared than other sites. I still remember when the whole COVID started about 2 years ago, and we were all concerned about how is the transition going to impact our performance and our ability to serve the customers. At that time, we were glad to have Teleperformance as our BPO because, the way we experienced the transition is that there wasn't any major disruption throughout the transition. Teleperformance at that time was way ahead of the curve and well prepared. Performance was pretty stable during that time. But the key thing to remember based on our experience is that when we transition from work in office to work from at home, we were talking at that time, 2 years ago, we were talking about tenured customer advocates, right? With new customers advocates coming on board, we definitely see an impact in terms of it's taking them longer to attain the performance level that we expect. To me, the on-site training and coaching today is more effective than, say, virtual classroom. And we see some strengths and weaknesses between the BPOs in terms of how they conduct the virtual training versus the in-classroom training. Work at home trend also brought another level of complexity that we are facing today in terms of, let's say, customer advocates' internet connection may not have enough bandwidth, or their system may not be working, have cell phone issues, and they need to bring the system in for IT to troubleshoot. What used to take a few hours to fix the issues now become a more than a day type of issue. So this obviously impacted our productivity. So workforce management, the IT capability to support the customer advocates, those are ever more critical than before.
You mentioned training. Do you find that that's more the case, preferring to have training conducted in a center based on the product complexity? You're supporting technology products in an enterprise environment, so I imagine some of those products and trainings get pretty extensive. Do you find that maybe the less complex products are more effective, or what's your experience there?
Yeah, if I were to talk about training, definitely the trend is moving more and more towards virtual training. The easier products can be done in a virtual training delivery method, right? Even some of the if you have a lab, for example, a hands-on lab training, some of that can be moved virtually, and with a level of success. But more complicated products, definitely, like when it comes to enterprise systems, etc. Having the actual lab, having the customer advocates actually work on the system, have some hands-on experience, that is still very critical.
Has work at home enabled you to have fewer sites or extend reach to different resources maybe not previously available, be it language, be it skill set?
Yeah, definitely. With the work at home trend, definitely, like I said, it improved the talent supply. Now we no longer lock down to one single site and be constrained by, say, the site capacity. We can have one site manage customer advocates, within the same region. So that definitely improves the flexibility there.
Alan, talk about channel strategy, if you will, and looking at consumer needs, enterprise needs, how they're interacting with your support differs between the two, and the channels have certainly changed with more adoption of automation, more adoption of self-help tools, adoption and being pushed to the communities as well to be able to do more with less. Talk to us about how you're looking at your channel support strategies, how they align with customer need, expectation, and also cost.
Yeah, let's talk about consumer, because that is, to me at least, is more complicated than, say, enterprise, because enterprise customers, like I say, is a B2B support model, and we have a very set way of working with the customers when it comes to support needs. For consumer, they have several channels that they can choose from. Our support strategy is actually based on which channel we believe best fits the customer's needs. Which channel we believe that is best suited for us to serve the customer. That may be different from their preference. It's a bit weird when we have a strategy that may not align with customers' channel of choice. Let me elaborate on that a little bit. Some channels are just more efficient and more effective than the others when it comes to, say, technical troubleshooting. A technical troubleshooting case can be resolved, let's say, in one call or in a single messaging chat session, or through proper self-help articles, compared to multiple emails that may span across multiple days to weeks to get fully resolved. We see this over and over again. When we are able to move the customers from, say, email to phone to messaging, customers are delighted at the end. Even though they first started with emails, because they see the speed of issue resolution much better than, say, communicating via emails. And our experience shows that the phone messaging always have better customer satisfaction scores compared to email.
I imagine that you need to align by country and language requirements as well, and social channels and different forms of communication, WeChat, SMS, WhatsApp, etc., as you look at your support strategy too, and what your customers are migrating to.
Yeah, we try to align that based on the countries. For example, WeChat is a very popular mobile app in China, so we are offering our support and service channel in WeChat for China. Messaging, like web-based messaging, Apple Business Chat, Google Business Messages are popular in the West, so we offer them here.
Thanks. And before we move on to the next topic, just a reminder, the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen. If anybody has any questions, we will have a little bit of time at the end to get in a little bit more detail or answering specific questions that you might have related to these topics. So, Alan, the above addresses a lot of the people or touch elements. What about the technology and how you complement that with high tech? Talk to us about automation. And as mentioned earlier, much as soon as the pandemic hit, we're all trying to figure out how we can quickly provide more self-help tools and less reliance on agents, particularly with centers being shut down or reduced staffing levels. So talk to us a little bit about what you've been able to accomplish or what people should consider related to automation.
Yeah, when it comes to automation, I think the way we go about introducing automation into our support channel is that we've looked at the low effort support cases where the support workflow is somewhat predictable. Automation to obtain customers' information, provide case status, RMA services, all those can be deployed rather easily, and it brings a lot of benefit because it helps reduce the interactions needed with, to be handled by the actual customer advocates. Some technical problem solving steps just can't be automated and still needs to be done by, humans. There are a few areas that I'm particularly excited about in terms of features. One is the intelligent voice automation that, allows us to personalize the way we greet the customers. Think of it as essentially a bot for voice where it knows the contextual information about the reason the customer is calling, and then based on the intent-based routing, move the customer to the right resources. That helped reduce the handle time and improve the customer experience. So that's one area that we are watching closely. There are also automations that actually work alongside the customer advocates and acts like a bot for support for our customer advocates based on customers' intent. This allows our advocates to improve, have a greater efficiency, and use automations to complete repetitive tasks.
When you look at what you can automate, are you using analytics to help with that and looking at more the higher volume, lower complexity to start with and then kind of working your way up the chain there?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we're looking at the high volume, low effort support cases. We want to start there, make sure we master that, and have that, to our satisfaction before we move to a more complex case.
One of the things you mentioned that some of the interactions are really can't be automated, and imagine when you get into enterprise environments, there's a lot of variables, additional variables that come into play with customer systems. Have you looked at automating some of that, maybe to give the agents, not to automate the whole transaction, but at least for capturing of information and being able to better prepare the technical engineer or support representative prior to that interaction with the enterprise customer in this case?
To a certain level, like I mentioned earlier, like RMA services, things like that, status, when the enterprise consumer customers want to know the status of the RMA, the shipment, all that, those can be automated. But I don't foresee us automating the troubleshooting steps for enterprise because every single case are very different because of the complexity of the product itself.
Now, in one area we see getting more and more traction, particularly with global customers, is translation technology and tools. Is this an area you're exploring, and particularly with more and more digital channels becoming prominent?
Yeah, it is definitely an area we are exploring. We are watching and trying to understand and assess how effective that is. Right now, my opinion is translation technology is great. Actually, it helps close the language gaps that one may have. If forcing certain languages is not an option or is out of the budget. But it can only be used for certain channels like emails, messaging, etc.
Thanks, Alan. And I see a couple of questions have come across here, and so we'd like to take time in the next 4 or 5 minutes and see if we can address some of these questions. One of the questions is, what percentage of interactions can be automated at this point? And then what's your goal over the course of the next 5 years?
Yeah, I can't give you a percentage today. I think, it will be very successful, we'll be very happy if we can automate maybe 10 to 20% of our cases today. But that is just a rough number. Where do I see this? What is our goal in the next 5 years? Definitely, if we can automate all the low effort cases, to a high percentage, let's say 80, 90%, right? And that will help drive efficiency in my operation.
Yeah, I think if you take a look, of course, types of products being supported will vary. If you look at the higher volume, least complex, hopefully there's some correlation to like an 80-20 rule where if you are able to get 10%, that could represent more than 10% of the volume, 10% of the interaction types. As I said, could be a lot greater volume. Another question that came in, what modes of communication for customer support are on the horizon? How might they impact operations? Video support as an example, where do you see that, and what other channels?
Yeah, so if I look at our current operations today, we have phone, we have email, we have messaging. Those are the three main ones, and on the enterprise we have the portal for the customers to log cases, etc. I see an opportunity to try to move even the consumer customers to use our portal, so that they can submit their cases and we can resolve the cases there. I see an opportunity there, and hopefully that may eventually is a way for us to reduce email or get away from email. Right now we are continuing to push to move email customers to say phone and messaging, because we strongly believe that email is not very efficient and won't bring the customer experience that we desire.
Thanks, Alan. And to our audience, if there's any other questions, we have just another minute or two left before we start to close it down. And then a reminder that we will have the breakout room, which is at the bottom of your dialog box on the right, open for about 15 minutes following this. If there's no other questions, and if you haven't already reviewed, resources are available in the resource window to the right of your screen. As mentioned, we'll stay around for an additional 15 minutes. And I think that's going to close our session today. Thank you, Alan, and thank you to our audience for joining TP Talks, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.